and welcome to episode number 75 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Croce, and I'm excited because you're here again. I'm so happy that spring is finally coming and that you're spending this time with me today. I have another great interview for you. Today I'm talking to Tracey from the uncagedlife.com. I don't know about you, but her domain name and her logo, which is an origami dove, really talks to me. In front of my desk, I have a painting I made 2 years ago that was inspired by Danielle Laporte's book, The Desire Map, and her question about how I want to feel. So the painting is like different colors, and in each color, I painted one of the words, one of the feelings I want to feel. And those 4 words I painted are unlimited, joyful, curious, and at peace. So yes, unlimited and uncaged. In other words, freedom are super important to me. And that's why I could never go back to a corporate job. Of course, then there's different levels of freedom, and I don't live in a van like Rebecca used to because I have 2 kids who need to go to school. So, of course, there are obligations, and I'm not completely free to just get up and travel. But I still feel uncaged. I really don't feel stuck as I make my own choices and decisions most of the time. So yes, the Uncaged Life really resonates with me, and I hope you'll appreciate my conversation with Rebecca as much as I appreciated talking to her. So Rebecca is the head and only honcho at the Uncaged Life, where she works with solopreneurs to get clear on their brand message, create packages that sell, and helps them learn what it actually takes to get and keep clients in this crazy online world, all while working from home with no pants on. Rebecca runs a free online community of over 10,000 solopreneurs, all from the comfort of never having to leave her house. She started her business while living in a van and loves talking about how to create a business that lets you have a life. So here's my conversation with Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. We're recording this a week before Christmas, so I don't know how it's like over there, but yeah, I'm really starting to get that Christmassy feeling.
It is, yeah. We don't have snow here yet in Toronto, but
no, we don't either.
So we got that.
Right. Oh, I didn't realize you're in Toronto. My husband is from Toronto, so
oh, cool.
I have family over there. Yeah.
Oh,
Wonderful. So besides the official bio that I just read in the intro, tell us the real story. You know, who's Rebecca? How does that introversion play within your business? And tell us all about you and how you built your business.
Yeah, I don't think I knew I was an introvert until I started a business and people told me. So where did I start? I started my business over at the Uncaged Life back in 2011 when I was going on a road trip with my boyfriend at the time. We bought this old camper van and we kind of took off. I'd always said that I wanted to start a business that would let me travel and kind of work from anywhere. And so back in 2011, I decided to put my money where my mouth was and just kind of go all in, which is a big personality trait of mine. Either I'm all in or I'm all or nothing. So we took off and we started that thing. And 7 or 8 years later, here we are. It's still working. Hooray. During that time, I was quite isolated in the business world. It was just me and him. And I was kind of trying to figure it all out myself. I didn't have a ton of business connections. I didn't know anyone else who had a business. So it was really just like me behind my computer. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I got used to. And then when that trip ended and we moved back to Toronto, I kind of just kept that up. And, you know, other people I knew were out going to networking events and networking meetings and just trying to connect. And I was just like, I'm good here on my laptop. I think I'll just stay here. And at first I thought it was bad. At first I thought, you know, this isn't the way to build a business. I should be meeting people and I should be like going out all the time to these events. And then I realized that's not true. I'm just an introvert and there's other ways to do it. So I stopped beating myself up about it.
Wonderful. So tell us about your business now. in the intro, it said 10,000 solopreneurs. So tell us about that.
So my work at Uncaged is working with service-based businesses. So lots of life coaches, health coaches, healers, other types of consultants, basically anyone who wants to be able to work just from their laptop, which, as you know, is a very introvert-friendly way of working. Yes. And my community has built up. We've got a really great Facebook group that's got a ton of different levels and types of business owners in it. And my work with these clients is helping them get really clear about the foundations of their business. So really clear about what their message is and who their target clients are and what they're selling and how to price things and how to talk about it all in a way that actually makes sense. So I kind of work with people at that very beginning stage of business, which is super fun because it's kind of the make or break stage. A lot of clients come to me when they're kind of ready to quit. They've been trying things, it's not working, they feel all over the place, they're not sure what to do. So it's really fun to get to see people kind of go through that transition and have things work. And then once they're done with me, I send them off to people who can teach them, fancier marketing techniques than what I teach.
Right. So you help them establish kind of the packages and their services and those kind of things?
Yeah, I help them get mostly really clear on what they're actually doing. So I graduated from a life coach training program and also from a nutrition program here in Toronto. And the same thing when I came out of both of those was like, okay, I want to do this thing, but I don't really know what I want to do with it. It's kind of like this big thing, like, all right, I'm a life coach, so I guess I'll just go and start a life coaching business, but didn't really have any idea of what niche I wanted to work with or exactly how I wanted that to look. And I find a lot of the clients who come to me are the same. They've kind of got this big picture idea of what they want to do, but the specifics aren't there. And as I'm sure you know, it's really hard to market yourself when you can't be clear and specific about how you can help people and what you do. So that's what we work on. We also work on making sure that, like you said, their packages are put together well. And that is a huge thing for introverts because I see a lot of people trying to put together programs that just don't work for the way that they actually want their lifestyle or their day-to-day to look. So we make sure that they're putting together programs that actually are going to feel good for them
right
now and in the long run.
So tell us about how that works for you, because, I'm just picturing 10,000 people. Like, well, she probably can't work with them one-on-one. So tell us.
Yeah, so I worked one-on-one for the first couple of years. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my strong point. I didn't love it. I felt that I had all these individual clients who were amazing and who could have so benefited from like knowing each other. And everyone would tell me the same things about their business struggles and kind of have the same aha moments. And I was just like, these people need to know each other. And so I eventually scaled up and started running my program as a group. And the way that I can do it and still preserve my energy is that I only run my program twice a year. So I launch it in the spring and in the fall. And it's full on. I'm like in it. It's very exhausting. It's great. It's exhilarating, but it's also very tiring. And so once that's done, I have a nice long break to kind of do more of the behind the scenes stuff and like hibernate again.
That is so funny. Yeah, that's actually why I want to get away from launches because I think they're really exhausting for introverts. And I guess it works if you only do 2 per year and you just know, okay, I get a break after. Don't you think there should be a module that doesn't?
They're exhausting.
Yeah.
They are exhausting, but I also really like it. I find that in the in-between time when I'm not launching, and I don't really run any programs in between those 2 launches. So I lose a little bit of the connection with the work that I'm doing and the people that I'm trying to serve. And so I do like launching, but I just can't do it for very long. So my launches are like, there's a couple weeks pre-launch, and then there's the open cart period where it's really full on and I'm, having conversations with people and on the online chat and sending people personal videos and all of that. And then the program runs for 5 weeks. And so that's also takes a lot of energy. So by the end of the 5 weeks of the program, I'm pretty much done, but I can sustain it for that amount of time and it works for me. And I do love that it sort of brings me fully back into the business as opposed to in between. I actually just turned my program into an evergreen program so that I could actually, not have to stress out so much about the launches.
Right.
But there's definitely a little bit of a lack of connection with me and the client. So
yeah, there needs to be a middle way somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to have evergreen, but even us introverts, we need connections. And so I think it's good to have both always.
Yeah. And it's, there's so many different ways that you can do that. I know a lot of people will do evergreen, but then still do some one-on-one or only do one-on-one. Or it's funny because a lot of the people that I work with are introverts because of the nature of online business, but there's a few of them who aren't. And so they get into online business thinking this is going to be great. I'm just going to run online programs and and after the first couple months, they're like, I'm just behind my desk by myself. Like there's no one to talk to. I don't see anyone. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it great? And they're like, no, it's horrible. And they actually start to go and like lead local groups or do a lot more in-person stuff where they can actually have that connection.
Yeah. Let's talk about your introverted superpowers, like I like to refer to them. The first one is your biggest strength. So what would you say is your number one asset being an introverted entrepreneur?
One of my biggest strengths, and I don't know if this is introvert specific or not, maybe you'll have to tell me. I'm really good at executing on decisions. So I can make a decision about something I want to do in my business really quickly and then take action on it. And I've always sort of been a big action taker. Once I decide I'm going to do something, it just gets done. And I'm also not a perfectionist. So those two things paired together tend to be very handy. And I see a lot of new business owners really overthinking a lot of the decisions.
Right.
Is that an introvert thing?
Well, focus, I would say, is definitely an introvert thing that kind of comes with making decisions and putting into action. But yeah, I'm sure extroverts can be good at that as well. And remind me, what's the second thing you said?
So the making decisions and then taking action on them. Right. So actually being able to, not overthink or get really
the overthinking,
how it's going to look or how it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's definitely introverts who do overthink and who are perfectionists. So you're the lucky one if you don't do that. Because as introverts, we tend to be in our head too much. And so that sometimes also means that we do overthink things and then have this perfectionism that doesn't let us, go forward with things.
Which is so hard if you're a new business owner. You have to be taking action on things. I've seen so many people plan for years. People come to me going, so I've been thinking about this business since, 2009, been planning it, got business plans for days, but they haven't actually done anything yet.
Yeah.
And so we have a couple of rules. I have a coach that works with me in my program named Erin, and one of our rules is good enough is good enough. And so, or 70% is good enough. So that's what we're kind of aiming for, is like, if it feels like 60 to 70% good, like that's good enough. Get it out the door, publish the thing, hit post. So it takes a lot of the pressure off of feeling like everything that we put out there has to be the best possible thing we could put out.
Right. What if you had to choose one challenge that has to do with introversion? What would you say that is?
One challenge?
Where do you feel challenged because you're introverted?
I definitely feel like some of the connections, I've made a lot of great friendships in the online business world and a lot of great partnerships and those types of things. But I do sometimes feel that I'm missing out on like deepening those connections because I don't tend to go to a lot of in-person events. I'm not a conference goer. I'm not like that type of stuff. I'm just like, oh God, it sounds like my worst nightmare. And yet there's often a lot of events where a ton of people that I know from online are going to be there. And there's times where I feel like I should just go because I want to meet these people in person, and it's going to be great for, referrals and just for strengthening the friendship connections that I've made, but I still don't go. So I definitely think that, I've got little pockets of kind of my online business friends that I'll meet in person, like more one-on-one, but I do feel like I'm missing out a little bit by being too introverted to be able to handle sort of big conference style events.
Yeah, I'm the same. And for me, you add the kind of the barrier of having to take a plane to come over to the US. And I'm like, no way.
Yeah, that's true. There's not a ton that happen over in Europe.
No, there's some events and I don't even go to those.
I mean, there was a huge one recently in Toronto, like a very well-known guy, and a ton of people I knew were coming to Toronto. And I ended up just calling a couple of my close girlfriends and was like, hey, after the event, do you want to just like go for brunch and meet me with 2 or 3 people? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but so that's like great because we're good at those connections one-on-one, right? Just deepening the connection. But it's true that sometimes it'd be nice for us to meet new people. But
I definitely get the fear of missing out. I feel like, oh my gosh, if I'm missing out if I don't go, but whenever I make the decision to not go, I feel relief. So
Or sometimes you book something. I'm like, okay, this is my New Year's resolution. I'm going to book 2 events. And then they come closer and closer and you're like, oh no, why did I do that?
I know. And some people love it. Like, it's fascinating looking at my extroverted business friends who just like, they're at all the conferences. Yeah, they love it. Thrive on it.
Yeah. Just all depends where the energy comes from, right?
Yeah.
So take me to an aha moment and tell us the story about your big aha.
In my
business or life. Maybe it was when you started the business, traveling. Anything.
Yeah, let me think. There was definitely a moment when I started my business. I had a couple things I was trying to smush into one business when I started. And I was going to a coffee shop every day and was like committing to to working on the business before I went off on this road trip. And I just couldn't get it to come together. I sat trying to put content on my website for weeks and it just wasn't coming together. And it was because a huge part of that, I was trying to kind of smush together a little bit of business stuff and nutrition and life coaching, too many things in one. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't want to do the nutrition piece, but I had just graduated from a program here in Toronto and was really, didn't want to just forgo all of that. And so I was really trying hard to make it work. And there just came a point where I was sick of the feeling of like, oh, I just can't get clear. And I'm just so confused about this. And I had to take kind of a hard look at everything that I was doing and get really, really honest with myself. And the aha moment was when I just kind of looked at what I was trying to put on my site. I was like, what if I just took this piece off? Like, what if you just gave yourself permission to drop the whole nutrition thing? Who cares about all the money you just spent on school? Who cares about all the years you just spent studying? What if that's just not what you're going to do? And as soon as I did that, I was just playing with it. I was like, just give yourself permission to try to put together this website without it. It came together so quickly. And it was a really good lesson early on in my business of really listening to my gut and really paying attention to what feels good and what doesn't, like what feels right and what feels a bit off. Right. Because then things came together very, very quickly. But it just took getting to the point of being willing to let go of a huge piece of who I was and kind of what my background was in order to make the rest work.
Yeah, and I'm sure it must have been really hard because, as you said, you just spent time and money invested in, programs, and now you're like, wait a minute, I'm just going to ditch that? But
it's
true.
And I knew I could help people with it, and I still loved it. I was still passionate about it, but it just wasn't where I wanted the business to go and what I wanted to do. So,
Do you feel like you're, since then, more often listening to your intuition and your gut feeling?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It still comes and goes. There's still times where it's tricky and I need to have somebody else give me permission to do something. I'll hire a coach and be like, can you just tell me this is okay? Mm-hmm. But I definitely have been able to build my business, I think, more quickly because I've been able to make decisions about what feels good for me and what doesn't, without getting too swayed by what other people are doing.
Yeah, because that, I think, listening to our intuition is somewhat definitely an introverted superpower, because we don't always need the permission or the acknowledgement of someone else. But sometimes we forget, and it's kind of like buried deep down inside that intuition. You're like, yeah, but what if, and what if, and what if? No, but my initial gut feeling told me to ditch it, so just go with it.
Yeah.
So easy. All right, let's talk about the 3 golden nuggets. So the first one is a personal habit, something that you do on a regular basis that you think contributes to your success.
I take a lot of time off.
That definitely helps.
Yeah, and again, because of the business model that I've created, I'm able to kind of take some chunks of time. I'm always working, but not, it's not full on. And I really think that helps. I just see so many people get their business is great and maybe it's thriving, but they've turned it into a job that stresses them out and takes up all their time. And, I don't have kids, but I do see a lot of people, not having a lot of time with their kids or their family or to travel. And I kind of think, what's the point? I started a business because I wanted to be able to own my own time and actually have a life because that's what's most important to me. And that's what I want to help my clients create too. And so I do a lot of traveling, but a lot of time on the road with my dog and my boyfriend, rock climbing. And I really think that helps because I'm able to enjoy all the fruits of my labor in my business. Mm-hmm. Not just financially, but actually like having the time to go and enjoy my life, which makes me more motivated when I do come back to business and it's time to get to work. I'm really like excited to get back into that. And I think that's why launching is okay for me because I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. I've had a good, nice chunk of rejuvenation.
Yeah, it's that focus again, right? When you focus on working, well, that's all you do. And then when you focus on living, then, you really focus on that. So
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. What about an internet resource, something online that you would like to share with our listeners?
One app that I love that I use is Voxer. Voxer is like a voice messaging app. Kind of like WhatsApp, but I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's the parallel to WhatsApp, what we use.
Yeah. You don't need people's phone numbers for it.
Right.
Which is nice. So I've used it. I use it a lot with like business colleagues. So it's sort of one of the ways that I'm able to still foster some of those connections without having to go to big networking events.
Right.
It's just like a nice way to have kind of quickie conversations with people back and forth. And I've also used it with clients before. I would way rather be able to, respond to a client inquiry while I'm like walking my dog than have to like set up a phone call and sit and like have set a specific time. And so I've used it when I've run smaller group programs where my clients got one-on-one support from me. And so it was awesome because I'd be out at the park with my dog, and that's when kind of like all my thoughts and ideas come when I'm working with someone. So it was a cool way to be able to build that connection with my clients, share information in a way that really worked for me.
Right.
I love it. Yeah. I don't know how people live without Voxer. I feel like all my best friendships like start on Voxer.
Yeah. So now that you made the parallel with WhatsApp, I definitely have heard of it before. And I think you guys don't use WhatsApp as much, right?
I tend to use it with my friends who are overseas.
Yeah. Because here all we use is WhatsApp. Nobody uses Voxer. Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different, but I don't know how.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. It's interesting that you say that you don't need a phone number. So
yeah. So like using it for clients, it's nice because you don't have to give out your home phone number or any of that.
Interesting. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What about a book that you would recommend to the introvert biz growth audience, and why?
A book that I listened to on audiobook recently was Mark Manson's book. Do you know his book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up?
Yes.
It was an interesting listen. I didn't necessarily agree with all of it, but I thought it was just an interesting way to kind of think about how we care about what other people think and how it can affect us in our business.
Yeah, I liked it too. Not, like you said, not everything, but I did make a few notes about what I was not going to care about anymore. So it's an interesting read.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a quick read. So.
I'll make sure to link to it in the show notes. Wonderful. A final question that I like to talk about or ask is, what comes up for you when you hear marketing with integrity? What does that mean for you, and how do you apply it in your business?
Having integrity in your marketing is, to me, I'm like, is this the only way to do it? For me, it's things that I feel like I see out there that don't feel integrous are things like when people create false scarcity around things, when there's, a lot of pressure. And I think anyone who runs a business has seen this way of operating where it just doesn't feel good. It just feels like somebody is trying to get you in the door, and doesn't really care about you at all. And so some things that I do in my business that are different. Number one, I really do care, but it's hard. I feel like that's kind of that's a subjective thing. So before somebody signs up for my group program, if somebody emails me with questions, I'll often send them voice replies or like a short little video to answer their questions, which number one is way easier for me than sitting down and typing. But also it just kind of helps create a little bit more connection than you would get just from sending an email or having my assistant reply. So little personal touches like that have felt really good to me and made a really big difference in my business, especially as somebody who sells a group program where people feel like my clients are often worried that they're going to come in and not get any attention. And so I really want to model before they pay me anything, what kind of attention they're going to get. And I send a lot of people away if somebody's not a good fit for my program, or I'll dig in and ask them a lot of questions to make sure that they're a good fit if they're not sure, because it's no good for us to have a client who's like not a good fit. Like it's not just, we might get paid, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be a good net outcome for our business if someone's not right for us. So I'm totally happy.
That's important, right? That defines integrity for me, is to actually be able to say, no, listen, I don't think you're a good fit, but I can recommend you this and this person, right?
Yeah. And it's always going to pay off more in the end, because that person will then send you referrals, will always remember you, versus if you sell them into your program, it's not right for them and then they feel like they got duped.
Yeah.
Which is not good.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me and taking the time. My final question is always about gratefulness. So what are you grateful for today or this week, Rebecca?
This week, I'm really grateful for my boyfriend, Henry, who I've been a little bit sick and he's just, we live together. So he's always around. He works from home too. And so he's always taking care of me. And especially in my business during launches, when, as we've talked about, things get crazy, he'll like make me soup and make sure I'm fed and kind of walk the dog and really, really take care of that piece, which is super, super nice to have.
That's wonderful. So if he's listening, he's in
the other room. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. We're saying hi.
I'll let him know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with the audience of the Introvert Biz Growth podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. So you can find out more about Rebecca at theuncagedlife.com. And she also has a freebie for us at theuncagedlife.com/checklist. And it is a 3-month business building checklist. So if you're just starting out and don't know where to get started, she has a great checklist that will just tell you what you need to do. So you'll find this episode's show notes at sarahsandacroce.com/episode 75. And if you're listening to this show on a mobile device, you can click on the description and you'll find all the clickable links in there too. Make sure to tune in again next week when I'll be ready to finally reveal the gentle business revolution and tell you how you can get involved. This is Sarah Sandacroce signing off from the Introvert Biz Growth podcast. Remember, you need to use your unique introverted superpowers in order to make a difference.